There's a quiet kind of power in the presence of a super empath. They don't need drama, shouting, or manipulation to change the dynamic of a relationship. Especially when paired with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, the super empath doesn't break them down through arguments or demands. Instead, they dismantle the avoidant's ego through their calm presence, deep intuition, and unshakable self-respect. Here are 5 subtle signs a super empath silently destroys an avoidant's ego without even trying.
Unbothered self-respect.
Avoidants thrive in relationships where they hold the power. They're used to seeing people trip over themselves to get closer, chasing after every breadcrumb of affection, questioning their silence, begging to fix things. That dynamic feeds their ego. It reassures them that they can withdraw at will and still be wanted. But when they meet a super empath, that pattern doesn't play out the way they expect. When an avoidant goes cold, the super empath doesn't panic. They don't start over-explaining. They don't beg for reassurance. They don't try to force emotional closeness. Instead, they lean back and simply allow the avoidant to have their distance. This unbothered self-respect hits the avoidant in a place they didn't know existed, because suddenly their usual game, detachment, withdrawal, silence, feels powerless. It leaves the avoidant confused, even unsettled. Why isn't this person fighting for me? Why aren't they trying harder? Why are they so calm? The avoidant starts to feel a crack in their armor, because the truth is, they expect others to chase, and when someone doesn't, it makes them question their own worth. It makes them realize their ability to pull away doesn't actually give them control anymore. The super empath's quiet confidence becomes a mirror. It forces the avoidant to confront the fact that they're not as untouchable as they think. And it whispers a message their ego doesn't want to hear. You can retreat all you want, but you can't make me abandon myself just to hold on to you. That kind of self-respect is magnetic, disarming, and ultimately destructive to the avoidant's fragile ego. Emotional Xray vision. Avoidants have spent years, even decades, perfecting the art of hiding their feelings. They know how to smile when they're hurting. They know how to deflect with jokes, intellectualize their emotions, and retreat behind a wall of mystery. They tell themselves no one can really see them, and that's how they stay safe. But then comes the super empath, someone who looks them in the eye and sees right through the mask. Super empaths have an uncanny ability to feel what's really going on, even when nothing is said. They pick up on energy, on subtle changes in tone, on the weight behind someone's silence. They can feel the fear that hides behind sarcasm. They can sense the sadness that sits beneath the avoidant's independence. And they can see the longing for love beneath all the defenses. What destroys the avoidant's ego isn't just being seen, it's being seen accurately, exposed. When the super empath calmly says something like, "You're not distant because you don't care. You're distant because you're afraid," it pierces through the avoidant's carefully constructed armor. For someone who has built their identity around being unreadable, untouchable, and in control, hearing that truth, delivered so gently yet so undeniably, feels like an invasion. It's not cruel, it's not loud, it's just real.
Refusal to be emotionally manipulated.
Avoidants often keep control in relationships by pulling away, creating confusion, or being inconsistent. It leaves others second-guessing themselves, always chasing clarity, but not the super empath. They don't overthink. They don't beg for answers. They don't spiral into the avoidance emotional maze. Instead, they see the game for what it is and walk right past it. When the avoidant goes cold, the super empath calmly pulls their energy back. That calm withdrawal feels like a vacuum to the avoidant. Suddenly, they're not in control anymore. The ego, so used to being the one who cares less, starts to panic when their tactics stop working. That quiet, graceful exit speaks volumes. and it leaves the avoidant questioning themselves instead of the empath. Healing energy that triggers shame. Avoidants carry deep wounds, feelings of unworthiness, fear of being seen, and the belief that love always comes with pain. They cover those wounds with sarcasm, coldness, or independence. But when they meet a super empath, something strange happens. They feel safe and unsafe at the same time. Safe because the empath is warm, gentle, and non-judgmental. But unsafe because that love stirs up everything they've been trying to bury. Suddenly, their shields start malfunctioning. And for the first time, they feel seen. But being seen comes with shame. Shame for their emotional walls. Shame for running from someone who actually loved them. Shame for sabotaging the very thing they wanted most. And the ego hates that feeling, because it can't survive in the presence of such soft, healing energy. Leaving with peace, not bitterness. Nothing destroys an avoidance ego more than when the empath finally walks away. Not in anger, not to teach a lesson, but with quiet peace. After enduring the distance and disappointment, the super empath simply stops participating. They don't yell. They don't demand change. They don't try to hurt the avoidant back. They just remember their worth and walk away. And in that calm exit is a message the avoidant can't ignore. You don't have the power to make me betray myself. The avoidant, who expected to be chased and forgiven without change, is left alone and exposed. Their illusion of control shatters. Because the super empath didn't just leave them, they took the power dynamic with them and left the avoidant staring at their own reflection, finally seeing what the empath saw all along and realizing it may already be too late. A super empath doesn't destroy an avoidant through force. They destroy the ego by embodying what the ego fears most: truth, self-respect, clarity. They don't scream, they don't chase, they don't collapse. They simply stand firm in who they are. That kind of quiet power is louder than anything the avoidant has ever felt. It's not destruction just for destruction's sake. It's a wake-up call, a chance for the avoidant to rise or retreat forever. Because people like the super empath don't come around twice. So if you're a super empath, remember, your strength is in your stillness. You don't have to chase, you don't have to yell. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with your heart intact. And if you're the avoidant, let this humble you, let it awaken you. Because someone who saw your soul and stayed won't always stay. And their absence will haunt you more than their presence ever did. If this video spoke to something inside you, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more wisdom on love, healing, and emotional truth. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt this dynamic yourself. You're not alone. And you're not broken. You're just waking up.